we're moving forward to educate the public on what the municipal code says and the violation of the municipal code, because once I started looking into this, I was quite shocked at what the violation actually is in the city of Snoqualmie for a off-leash violation. So I'll tell you first about the Snoqualmie Municipal Code. It's under 6.04.020, control of dogs by leash required. This requires an owner of a dog, to be on the leash, not exceeding 15 feet in length, anytime it is off the property of where the dog lives. There's an exception of when you are transporting the dog in a car. You don't have to have a leash. But when it is out in public around other people, and off the property of where the owner resides, this says it's required to have a leash. Now, we'll go to North Bend real quick and I'll tell you about theirs. Theirs also has the same 15 feet length requirement, but the big difference is on their penalties. So over there in North Bend, the first penalty that you get is a $50 notice of infraction. Okay, so it's a civil violation. The second would be $75, and that was if you get two in one year. And then everyone after that, no matter the time frame, is $200 fine. Okay, so let's go back to 1998 when our Snoqualmie Municipal Code for control of dogs by leash required was signed into law. This made having a dog off the leash a misdemeanor. So there is no language in here about civil infractions. There's no way of giving a ticket for this for a first offense. This basically goes to a misdemeanor for violations if we were to take action. I've spoken to officers that have worked in this city for many years about how we handle these. And if we are driving around and we on view a violation, we will stop. We don't enforce it at that time. We give it a educational period where we talk to the person, we give them a verbal warning, we let them know that it is an actual crime. I've heard that by memory from Sergeant Weiss, who's been here the longest, we charged one person with it in Snoqualmie, and that person ultimately thought it was a joke and didn't show up for court. So it went to an arrest warrant, and then they were pulled over on a traffic stop, and we ran the name, and it had a Snoqualmie warrant. So that person was arrested and booked into jail for not having a dog on a leash. You can see how that may happen if they are not responsible and don't show up for their court hearing. If we are called to the scene or something happens, or somebody is in a park and says that there's a dog off leash, we will respond. And at that point, we're using our officer discretion to find out if the circumstances are egregious enough that it goes to issuing a criminal citation. It is not a mandatory arrest crime, so we would not arrest them and put them in jail. Circumstances where that would happen would be like if they don't show up and they get a warrant, and then we come in contact with them again, we're mandated by the judge issuing the warrant to put them in jail. So those are the two differences in the cities that we service. I don't think the majority of our citizens in Snoqualmie know what the law actually says. So on the 15th of May, we put out our first joint video on our social media. We worked with North Bend. They were interested in doing a video. So that was the first one that went out, and it had information about both cities' dog leash laws. I've been in contact with the city PIO here and the police public information officer as well. And over the next couple of weeks, they're going to put together a video interview of myself explaining the laws, and that's going to go out to the public on social media and be attached to the city website. So we're trying to get more people to know about this. We are also going to be doing a release of information to the media to see if any takers come around that would like to do a story in the newspaper. So we can get that going we want this to all really take traction and start moving forward by the end of school, the start of the summer season, when the weather's actually good and we see a lot more dogs out. So that's kind of the plan on the campaign. And I spoke to the city PIO earlier today, and she's coming up with graphics that we can put out once a week on social media, reminding people of the different intricacies of this leash law, and what will happen if they're actually charged with it. We have had a couple of incidents that I wanted to speak about. I've heard from a lot of people in the community about the incident that took place here in Snoqualmie by the train depot back in April. That incident, we responded. The fire department had been on scene for a little girl that was bit by a dog. That dog was not off leash, so the owner had it on a leash, and the little girl came up to it to pet it and got bit, and had to go to the hospital. So we did have last week over in North Bend, we had a lady that was walking her dog on the Snoqualmie Valley Trail, and another person was walking their German Shepherd off leash, and that German Shepherd attacked this other person's dog and trying to break it up. The victim was bit pretty bad and had to go to the hospital. Those cases we investigate initially, and then we contact King County Animal Control. They send officers out, and their ability to bring people to justice a little bit more harshly in those circumstances than the city. And like the person in North Bend, I found out today that the King County Animal Control officer has filed a felony charge against them, and they can have bigger fines. They put them into a database, an animal database, for any other violations later on that we don't keep. We would have to search the person's name to see if we've ever been out to their residence or any of that stuff before. So those two incidents there were handed over to King County Animal Control to bring to a conclusion through court.
Councilmember Coffey.
King County Animal Control has a 3-strike rule. So basically with the bites, third time the animal will be euthanized. Anytime a human is involved, yeah, they definitely will go after it. Now, the thing I find interesting is that both Snoqualmie and North Bend's laws are just off leash. There's nothing about biting. And so I know it sounds like that's more to the officer's discretion on that.
Yeah, there's other RCWs that we could charge somebody with, maybe like a reckless endangerment, things like that would be more appropriate than just an off-leash violation. The King County Animal Control are the ones that have far more training in this field. They deal with it every day.
Right.
I just received an email today from King County Animal Control for their quarterly updates, and I can email that information to you guys if you would be interested. It shows like countywide how many animal incidents they're responding to, and then it breaks it down by city, and it shows Snoqualmie, shows North Bend, but how many incidents, and then their response times as well. So by incident, we are very small compared to the rest of the county. South County, they're going there constantly. Berrien, SeaTac were the leaders on in King County for animal control. So we are, like I said, we've only had one complaint of a dog bite, this year.
And I think a lot of it too is that the dog owners here tend to police themselves in that, if an owner or a dog is acting at, it's kind of a peer pressure type of a thing to do that. Whereas, unless it's something really like horrific, like biting a child, I don't think that it would ever be reported. Yeah. What do you do in the case of a situation over at the off-leash dog parks Or, I mean, these are designated,
Yep. So it's actually written in the Snoqualmie Muni Code that that's an exception. You can be in any designated off-leash area and not be subject to this ordinance.
okay,
It's just outside of the place that they are, or they live, and the off-leash dog park.
okay, okay, I'm guilty.
Councilmember Christensen, do you have any other questions or comments?
No, I think the only other thing that I would maybe state, so I guess yes, sorry, is just that, to the extent that somebody has been wronged or attacked or anything along those lines, there are also civil remedies that they can seek as well.
Yeah.
So they can always sue and move along those lines too. So there are other options to recoup losses and costs.
I did a quick search on the MRSC Municipal Research Service Corps, which is phenomenal resource. Linwood happens to have a whole section of their city code under chapter 6.202 on potentially dangerous animals, exotic animals. I guess that would be zebras, right? They would come under that. Which I understand you might have had something to do with over the last 6 weeks or so. Guard dogs, wild animals, other types of exotic animals. Maybe it's worth looking at some of the other city codes because, and as Councilmember Cotton brings up, you could go to an off-leash park, but what if you bring a dangerous dog there? Do we have it really written in the code?
Under
How to
those
protect her.
circumstances, I don't think we would need something written in the code about something happening at the dog, off-leash dog park. If there was an incident there, we would be reporting it to King County Animal Control,
Mhm.
and they could use their county ordinances for that under their animal statutes. We defer to them most often on charging for animal crimes. Unless certain circumstances that we don't feel like it rises to that level, we'll do it ourselves. But there's a lot more resources that the King County Animal Control Officer can have at their disposal.
It's unfortunate that, most of the time pets are incredibly sweet and kind, but when you have one that's aggressive,
Yeah.
it's not muzzled, whatever it might be.
or it's put in this circumstance,
Mhm,
it's just can be the circumstance that they're in, so.
yeah.
And that's why I think that getting this information out on a widespread campaign would do very good with getting people to realize the importance of it. I know that in my neighborhood, I'm on a Facebook page on my neighborhood, and my neighbors will call you out in front of everybody if you walk your dog on not a leash. I think that happens, in Snoqualmie neighborhood Facebook pages as well that I see.
Oh, yes.
So to your point, they do police themselves a little bit, but I would like to have a little bit more involvement from the community, if they see it and they believe it is an issue, if anything's happening with that particular dog, that it's a concern, that they need to call us and we can come out and make contact and either educate or hold them accountable for something.
Okay. And I also, just one other thing to add is being on a leash doesn't stop an aggressive dog from being aggressive. And I think maybe we should probably take a little deeper look at that,
Yep.
and making sure that that's, addressed.
Is there any need to bring North Bend and Snoqualmie more in sync? As far as, like you said, I know you refer to King County Animal Control, but as far as the penalties or violations, or is that, versus having to deal with two different
Yeah,
codes?
very seldom do our codes differ. So this is one of the few that it actually does. I think we would need to have a deeper conversation about what we think the appropriate charge would be, and I wouldn't be able to give you an answer today.
Oh, yeah.
I would have to look at, a list of other departments on cities on what they are doing. I personally, as a police officer, like as many options as possible to solve a problem. Like I said, this came from 1998, and it doesn't appear to have been updated since.
Mhm.
I'm thinking that most likely in 1998 or 1997, there must have been some sort of incident
Mhm.
that prompted this.
Yeah.
And it was probably big enough that it warranted a misdemeanor response to it. Not to say that I would not be open to revisiting for like maybe a first offense, civil infraction, and
Yeah.
then a second one, maybe a crime.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, we can definitely look into that. I would like to have conversations, outside of this arena about that with you as the committee members, find out where you, what you would like to see as well. And I can gather a lot of data from other cities in the area to find out what they're doing.
That would be helpful.
That was, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And what are the puppy poop laws as far as picking up after?
Oh, yeah.
The scoop laws.
Laws. Yeah. You got to be a good neighbor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's the good neighbor law. Please don't do that in my yard. I have 2 dogs and I have enough to worry about.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Anything else for the chief? There you go.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you much, chief. Well, with that, items for discussion, new business. Anything that you'd like to bring forward? I have been in touch with Councilmember Christina Restic, my counterpart over at North Bend. And we are going to work on a time for a joint meeting and where that will take place with both committees. And this would be a good topic of discussion, plus other things that if we can collect to make sure that we're all on the same page. Anything else for the good of the order? Okay, well, with that, we have come down to the end of the agenda. Thank you very much. We will be adjourned.
Thank you.
At 5:27 p.m. Thank you, Jimmy.